The coming persecution brought to you by the surveillance state. The technology that will facilitate it, the laws that will allow it, and what it looks like in real time.
As I sit here and take in all of the news from every direction, all I see is deceivers, liars, corporate media, cover-ups, agenda, all pushing the same propaganda. It's time for a game changer, a visionary, an innovative person who changes the way that people think of the situations. It's time for Game Changer TV, telling it like it is. Get in the game.
Thank you for tuning into Game Changer TV. I'm your host, Terri Lynn, and this is the channel where every day we're telling it like it is. Today is March 30th, 2025, and we're going to talk about the coming persecution brought to you by the surveillance state. If this was satire, I would probably name it Evil Santa, making the list and checking it twice. Gonna knock off who's naughty or nice. This is about to get wild. The coming persecution is going to be brought to you by the surveillance state that is being set up all around us while people are not paying attention. Technology to spy on people is being utilized everywhere. The laws that will allow the government to pick you up for what is on that technology are being established, and it could lead to the death penalty. Are y'all ready for this? So we're going to look at the technology, the laws, the motivation behind it, and what it looks like in real life. You're going to want to see this. Let's go. So I like to go to this site a lot, the Atlas of Surveillance, atlasofsurveillance.org. And it shows how surveilled the United States of America is. And it's got a map that you can go look at all the technology being utilized against American citizens. Let's go explore the map. So there's the United States and how surveilled it is. Body-worn cameras, drones, license plate readers, third-party platforms, camera registry, facial recognition, gunshot detection, cell site simulator, predictive policing, video analytics, fusion center, and real-time crime center. So let's take all this off and let's look at them one by one. Okay, so let's look at this. Let's just look at real-time crime centers. Real-time crime centers. And you can go expand it. You can look it up. Okay. My hometown of Baton Rouge has it. Baton Rouge Police Department. Houston, Dallas, Little Rock, Memphis, Birmingham. So that's real-time crime centers. Let's look at fusion centers. That's where they're gathering all the information into one place. Predictive policing. Let me take these other two and y'all watch what Tennessee looks like. Under predictive programming alone, look what Tennessee looks like. So real-time crime, the fusion center, predictive policing, video analytics, cell site simulators, gunshot detection, facial recognition, camera registry, third-party platforms, license plate readers, drones, and body-worn cameras. So that's how much information is getting gathered on people all day, every day. in the United States that they will feed this information into super AI computers. And Elon Musk has the largest in the world called Colossus, and it's in Memphis, Tennessee. All this is going to be developing a profile on every single person in on this planet, but we're talking about in America. Let's go look at what this is going to lead to. And we're going to circle back around to Big Brother, street lights that watch and listen. I've done about 4 or 5 videos on this, but when y'all see what this is going to be like, your mind is going to be blown. Street lights that watch and listen. We're going to come back to this. That's part of the technology. Okay, we're going to come back around to it, but that's part of the technology that they're using, along with the other atlas of surveillance. Then I'm going to throw in this article to circle back to come to in the atlas of surveillance and how surveilled we are. This is from March 28, 2 days ago. Nearly 10,000 people in the Netherlands are euthanized in 2024, including 219 for psychological disorders. Y'all, I figured it up yesterday. That's like 193 people a week that were being euthanized. Like almost 1,000 people a month being physician-assisted suicide. Do you think these people did it voluntarily, or do you think they're just taking people out? In November 2023, a poll of nearly 200,000 people found that 80% of the Dutch supported enabling elderly people who feel they've reached the end of their lives to obtain assisted suicide, even if they are not terminally ill. Nearly 10,000 people living in the Netherlands were euthanized last year, marking a 10% increase from the year before and a 60% increase in those suffering from psychological conditions. So, are you in your right mind to say, I want to die or not? Okay? What do no harm? Okay? According to the RTE, 86.29 of those reported were due to common physical conditions like cancer, heart issues, nervous system disorder, and lung disorders. There were 427 reports of euthanasia being granted to those suffering from dementia, while 219 reports derived from at least one psychological disorder, up from 138 in 2023. In 6 cases, the physician performing the assisted suicide did not comply with what the RTE called the due care requirements when providing euthanasia. Do y'all see where this is about to lead to? Although the absolute numbers are still low, there is a recent and enormous increase in requests and euthanasia performed in patients with psychological complaints, especially in young people under the age of 30 years old. This is controversial because it is unclear whether young people at that age can meet the due diligence criteria. How can one at that age determine with certainty that a young person with a still developing brain definitely wants to die? We're about to see population control, but I'm going to circle back to this atlas of surveillance. If they know that you're mentally challenged, like the Nazis did, the Nazis took out mentally challenged people. And what if their technology identifies you as being mentally challenged? Then they're going to say, oh, they wanted to die. Do you really think 10,000 people wanted to die in 1 year? 1,000 people a month just said, hey, doctor, kill me. 200 people a week just wanted to voluntarily do it? We're getting ready to set up for something. Let's keep going. Families of deported Venezuelans are distraught. Their loved ones are sent to El Salvador. Does this bring back memories of anything? Now, y'all, these people were sent to another country without due without due process. Families of deported Venezuelans are distraught their loved ones were sent to El Salvador. The White House has invoked the Alien Enemies Act and alleged that those who were moved were linked to a gang, a claim their family strongly rejects. Now, I'm just going to show you what it looks like, and then all this is going to get tied back into Atlas of Surveillance on Americans.
Arrived in El Salvador over the weekend. El Salvador's president posting this video to social media, saying it shows members of the Tren de Aragua gang being transferred to one of the country's mega prisons. Tonight, families of some of those detained saying their loved ones are being wrongly accused.
Now, what if you are just wrongly accused? What if you were wrongly accused and sent to another country without due process or protecting your rights? We do have a constitution, but y'all, this is about to get crazy. Let's keep going. Dallas, Texas man may have been deported to the notorious El Salvadorian prison over his autism awareness tattoo. A Dallas man was arrested and deported and sent to a notoriously dangerous El Salvador prison, and it may have been because of his autism awareness tattoo. It's part of Trump's administration policy of sending Venezuelan men accused of gang affiliations to the terrorism confinement center. Now, y'all keep this in mind. Keep this in mind. The terrorism confinement center. In most or all cases, they are being locked up without charges or due process. Let that sink in. Let that sink in. And I just did a video the other day. Speaker of the House Mike Johnson suggests eliminating the entire federal district courts to help trump the federal courts that hear incarceration cases. So you could be falsely accused without charges or due process. Okay? It's all fun and games until it comes to you. Speaker of the House Mike Johnson said Congress has the power to eliminate entire district courts on Tuesday, joining a chorus of Republicans growingly increasingly frustrated with federal courts blocking Trump's administration's sweeping efforts to overhaul the government. The courts that would protect our constitutional rights. The federal courts, including the Supreme Court, play a crucial role in protecting constitutional rights. The federal courts are often called the guardians of the Constitution because their rulings protect rights and liberties guaranteed by the Constitution. The federal courts have a right in saying if the constitutional rights of people are violated. And the Speaker of the House is talking about eliminating federal courts that would protect our rights so that Donald Trump can get his agenda passed. Rounded up without due process, without charges on them, sent to a foreign country's notorious prison. And our Speaker of the House is talking about eliminating our federal courts that would basically put us in the same exact situation. Nobody to defend our rights. This says, incredible. Trump administration reportedly deports a man over an autism awareness tattoo. Let me make this smaller. And she was wearing a $50,000 watch.
As Donald Trump battles the courts over his deportations of immigrants to El Salvador, grabbing people off the street and rendering them to a foreign gulag with zero due process. What's clear now is that the point of it all was to basically make content. Trump and the government have eagerly shared videos and photos of shackled and forcibly shaved detainees to show they're doing something. Gross violations of human rights being done to provide fascist propaganda. Yesterday, we saw the worst example yet. The Secretary of Homeland Security, Kristi Noem, traveled to that gulag in El Salvador. This is the photo opportunity that she traveled there to get. It's a screenshot from a propaganda video that we're not going to show here because none of the prisoners stacked behind her like firewood consented to this. It's debasing and dehumanizing by design. In the video, Noem said that this overseas jail where prisoners are being held without trial is one of the tools in our toolkit that we will use if you commit crimes against the American people. They claim they're deporting undocumented gang members, but some just incredible new reporting from Mother Jones magazine suggests the American government is simply disappearing innocent people on the stupidest of pretexts. The magazine spoke with 10 families of disappeared Venezuelans who say their loved ones were abducted because the U.S. falsely accused them of having gang tattoos. Noah Leonard is one of the Mother Jones reporters who spoke with the families of those detained Venezuelans, and he joins me now. Isabella Diaz is the co-author of this piece. The two of you did incredible work. This is some of the finest journalism I've read in the Trump era so far.
Oh, well, thank you for having me on, Chris.
It's really important. So let's talk about one of the people that you managed to track down. This is the family of Nery Alvarado. Tell me about who Nery Alvarado is.
So Nery Alvarado, he actually celebrated his 25th birthday a week ago in this gulag that you talked about in El Salvador. He came to the United States last year from Venezuela, had been working in a bakery there, and I talked with his sister and his boss, and it was just immediately apparent just what a sweet man he is. His 15-year-old brother has autism. He has an autism awareness ribbon tattooed on his leg, and he only has 2 other tattoos, and this is part of the reason he was targeted. One says brother in English, the other says familia, family. And, he talked to his sister, and he says, this is someone who wouldn't even hurt a fly. His boss absolutely loved him, had invited him into his home many times, vouches for him 100%, yet he was taken in by ICE in early February and told explicitly, you're in here because of the tattoos you have.
Yeah, can we show that one again? Nelierson, this really broke me. This is a tattoo with his brother's name, Nerlielson, and an autism, that's the autism awareness sign. And that tattoo, we think, is part of what got this guy grabbed, deported, and stuck in a prison with a shaved head, stacked in those cells with zero way to get out because of that tattoo.
Yes, I mean, it is hard to believe. I mean, but we spoke with 10, like you said, 10 families. All 10 of their relatives had tattoos. It's, there might be some people who were sent there who didn't, but clearly they were targeting people who had these tattoos based on the idea that this is an evidence that you're in a gang. But that is such pseudoscience, basically. And especially in this case, these are obviously transparently not gang tattoos. And what is so kind of infuriating about this is, too, that when he was taken to ICE's office in downtown Dallas, I was told by his sister and his boss, he recounted this one day later. He said, they told me I was clean. They checked my phone. I explained my tattoos. They said it was fine. But then he went to another office and they said, you know what, you're coming with us anyway. And this was happening right at the time where the highest levels of the Trump administration were pushing for more and more bodies to put into detention centers.
You also
how Chris Neum's $50,000 Rolex at a Salvadorian prison became a political flashpoint. While she's showing how tough America's going to be on crime, she's wearing a $50,000 watch. This guy posted, Allison turned this picture into a black and white, and this is a Christian. This is not a left-wing lunatic person. It told its own story and paints an image that we thought we had forgotten. The USA has gone into the cellar. This is what dark MAGA in action looks like. Now, what if they change who the enemy of the state is, and you're a Christian that gets picked up and sent out? Well, I just thought about Ephesians 6:20. Paul says, for which I am an ambassador in bonds or in chains, that therein I may speak boldly as I ought to speak. For I am an ambassador in a chain, that in it I may be bold as it behooves me to speak. The time is coming, the Bible says. The time is coming that whosoever killeth you will think that they are serving God. Revelation 2:10 says, "Fear none of these things that you are about to suffer. For behold, the devil shall cast some of you into prison, that you may be tried, and you shall have tribulation 10 days. Be faithful unto death, and I will give thee the crown of life." People are being monitored. Surveillance technology is there. Courts are being eliminated that will protect your rights. And we are about to see persecution like we've never seen. Let's keep going. This is a kind of old clip, but Paul Washer is warning that persecution is coming to the church.
The church in America is going to suffer so terribly. And we laugh now, but they will come after us. They will come after our children. They will close the net around us while we are playing soccer mom and soccer dad, while we are arguing over so many little things and mesmerized by so many trinkets. The net even now is closing around you and your children and your grandchildren, and it does not cause you to fear. You will be isolated from society, as has already happened. Anyone who tries to run for office who actually believes the Bible will be considered a lunatic until finally we are silenced. We will be called things that we're not and persecuted not for being followers of Christ, but for being radical fundamentalists who do not know the true way of Christ, which of course is love and tolerance. You'll go down as the greatest bigots and haters of mankind in history. They've already come after your children, and for most of you, they got them. They got them through the public schools and indoctrination, and the university and indoctrination, and then you wonder why your children come out not serving the Lord. It's because you fed them right into the devil's mouth. So little by little, the net is closing around, and then it's not little by little. Look how fast things are going downhill just in a matter of weeks. Matter of weeks. But at the same time, know this: persecution is always meant for evil, but God always means it for good. And is it not better to suffer in this life, to have an extra weight of glory in heaven? You must settle this in your mind. This is the one thing I want to say over and over. Do not believe. Down through history, you have a wrong idea of martyrdom and persecution. You think that these men were persecuted and martyred for their sincere faith in Jesus Christ. That was the real reason, but no one heard that publicly. They were martyred, and they were persecuted as enemies of the state, as child molesters, as bigots, as narrow-minded, stupid people who had fallen for a ruse and can contribute nothing to society. Your suffering will not be noble. So your mind must be filled with the Word of God when all people persecute you and turn on you. And if the Spirit of God in common grace pulls back and you see even your children and your grandchildren tossing in the lot that you should die. This is no game. You want revival and awakening, but know this. For the most part, great awakenings have come only preceding great national catastrophes or the persecution of the church. I believe God is bringing a great awakening, but I believe that He is raising up young men who are strong in trust in the providence of God to be able to wade through the hell that's going to break loose on us. And it will be on us before we even recognize it.
And our current Speaker of the House talking about eliminating the courts that would protect our rights, to eliminate the courts that would prevent us from being illegally detained. And this was one of the most amazing and honest reporting from Rachel Maddow. She did more in this piece than any conservative journalist ever exposed. She exposed NDAA under Obama, and it has been renewed. It is still in place, and what prolonged detention without due process will look like. This should make you tremble.
a proclamation of American values, a repudiation of the lawless behavior of the last presidential administration, and another speech announcing a radical new claim of presidential power that is not afforded by the Constitution and that has never been attempted in American history, even by George W. Bush and Dick Cheney. Remarkably, President Obama today made both of those speeches simultaneously. Standing inside the National Archives in front of the actual original Constitution, President Obama delivered a blistering critique of the Bush administration, in which he called their actions and their legacy literally a mess.
Our government made a series of hasty decisions. Poorly planned, haphazard approach. Too often, we set those principles aside as luxuries that we could no longer afford. Our government made decisions based on fear rather than foresight. The decisions that were made over the last 8 years established an ad hoc legal approach for fighting terrorism that was neither effective nor sustainable.
An ad hoc legal approach for fighting terrorism that was neither effective nor sustainable. Ouch. Then, moments later, he announced his own ad hoc legal approach for fighting terrorism. President Obama today proposed something new, something called prolonged detention. Doesn't sound that bad, right? Prolonged detention. Did you ever see the movie Minority Report? It was based on a Philip K. Dick short story. Came out in 2002. It starred Tom Cruise, remember? He played a police officer in something called the Department of Pre-Crime. Pre-crime is where people are arrested and incarcerated to prevent crimes that they have not yet committed.
Mr. Marks, by mandate of the District of Columbia Pre-Crime Division, I'm placing you under arrest for the future murder of Sarah Marks and Donald Dubinos. Take place today, April 22nd, at 0800 hours, 4 minutes. No, I didn't do anything.
You didn't do anything, but you're gonna. Future murder. Creepy, right? Putting somebody in jail not for what they've done, but for what you're very sure they're going to do?
There may be a number of people who cannot be prosecuted for past crimes. In some cases because evidence may be tainted, but who nonetheless pose a threat to the security of the United States.
We're not prosecuting them for past crimes, but we need to keep them in prison because of our expectation of their future crimes.
Al-Qaeda terrorists and their affiliates are at war with the United States, and those that we capture, like other prisoners of war, must be prevented from attacking us again.
Prevented. We will incarcerate people preventively. Preventive incarceration. Indefinite detention without trial. That's what this is. That's what President Obama proposed today, if you strip away the euphemisms. One civil liberties advocate told the New York Times today, quote, "We've known this was on the horizon for many years, but we were able to hold it off with George Bush. The idea that we might find ourselves fighting with the Obama administration over these powers is really stunning." And it is stunning, particularly to hear President Obama claim the power to keep people in prison indefinitely with no charges against them, no conviction, no sentence, just imprisonment. It's particularly stunning to hear him make that claim in the middle of a speech that was all about the rule of law.
But we must do so with an abiding confidence in the rule of law. Our government was defending positions that undermine the rule of law to ensure that they are in line with the rule of law.
How can a president speak the kind of poetry that President Obama does about the rule of law and call for the power to indefinitely, preventively imprison people because they might commit crimes in the future? How can those two things coexist in the same man, even in the same speech? Well, that brings us to the self-consciously awkward, embarrassing part of this speech today. After condemning the Bush administration for what he called their ad hoc legal strategy for trying to make things seem legal that patently weren't, this is what President Obama proposed.
My administration has begun to reshape the standards that apply to ensure that they are in line with the rule of law. We must have clear, defensible, and lawful standards for those who fall into this category. We must have a thorough process of periodic review so that any prolonged detention is carefully evaluated and justified. Our goal is to construct a legitimate legal framework for the remaining Guantanamo detainees that cannot be transferred. Our goal is not to avoid a legitimate legal framework. In our constitutional system, prolonged detention should not be the decision of any one man. If and when we determine that the United States must hold individuals to keep them from carrying out an act of war, we will do so within a system that involves judicial and congressional oversight. And so going forward, my administration will work with Congress to develop an appropriate legal regime so that our efforts are consistent with our values and our Constitution.
You'll construct a legal regime to make indefinite detention legal. You will, what does he say? Develop an appropriate legal regime. So you can construct a whole new system outside the courts, even outside the military commissions, so that you can indefinitely imprison people without charges. And you'll build that system from scratch. What's that somebody said about ad hoc legal strategies? Just for context here, in the United Kingdom, where there isn't even a Bill of Rights, there's been a major debate about whether people can be held in preventive detention. Former British Prime Minister Tony Blair wanted 3 months to be the outer limit for how long anyone could be held. There was a big political fight about it. Parliament ended up limiting that power to 28 days. 28 days is still the longest period of preventive detention that's allowed under law in any comparable democracy anywhere in the world. How long would President Obama's proposed preventive indefinite detention last? Well, he's not saying yet, but here's how he defines the threat that he says makes indefinite detention necessary.
Right now, in distant training camps and in crowded cities, there are people plotting to take American lives. That will be the case a year from now, 5 years from now, and in all probability, 10 years from now.
10 years from now. So you could get arrested today and locked up without a trial, without being convicted, without being sentenced for, say, 10 years until the threat of your future criminal behavior passes. Prolonged detention, he's calling it. This was a beautiful speech from President Obama today with patriotic, moving, even poetic language about the rule of law and the Constitution, and one of the most radical proposals for defying the Constitution that we have ever heard made to the American people.
What is indefinite detention? It means holding someone in custody for an unspecified or potentially unlimited duration without a set release date, without a trial, or without conviction. Indefinite detention refers to a situation in which the government places individuals in custody without informing the detainee when, if ever, the detainee will be released. Punishment before justice. The ACLU says indefinite detention without charge or trial violates the essence of American due process and the rule of law. So this is very concerning. They've got on the books indefinite detention where they could snatch people up that are enemies of the state without real charges, held indefinitely, not knowing when you're ever going to get out. Technology will be used to round people up. Let's look at some of this street level surveillance. This is something that the Nazis did, okay? Facing history and ourselves. Spying on family and friends. Discover the effects that the Malicious Acts law, which criminalized dissent to the Nazi Party, had one German family and on German society as a whole. Malicious Attacks law. Oh, kind of like what's happening with Tesla cars, malicious attacks, which criminalized dissent to the Nazi Party. Look at this. Individuals target Tesla vehicles. Malicious actors. Malicious. I don't have a subscription to New York Times, but Trump escalates threats to political opponents he deems his enemy. What does this sound like? This sounds like the Nazis. Trump escalates threats to his political opponents that he deems his enemy. How are you going to get on the enemies list? This was on Trump's first day in office. Among flurry of first-day executive orders, President Trump issues order on the death penalty. On January 20th, President Donald Trump signed more than 24 executive orders, including a call to restore the federal death penalty. The order, while lacking many important details, instructs the Department of Justice Attorney General to pursue the death penalty for all crimes of severity, including the killing of a law enforcement officer or a capital crime committed by an illegal alien present in this country, and to encourage state attorney generals to bring state capital charges for these crimes. He also called on the attorney general to take all necessary and lawful actions to ensure that states with capital punishment have sufficient access to drugs needed for lethal injection executions. But there's no details. The boundaries are going to be moved. Many of the statements in this executive order simply echo previous campaign rhetoric without providing important specifics or addressing the fact that well-settled legal precedent or laws would need to be changed by the United States Supreme Court or Congress to make the proposals a reality. And look at this. Dissent is now an arresting offense. The message could not be clearer. Dissent is now a crime in the United States of America. Dissent is being criminalized right under our noses. How dissent gets criminalized. The Sedition Act, which made most dissent speech a federal crime. And Trump wants the death penalty for federal crimes. Think about that. Federal crime to be dissenters under the Sedition Act. It is a serious federal crime to commit seditious conspiracy or to participate in an insurrection against the government. Criminalizing dissent means using the legal system and criminal law to punish or suppress individuals or groups from expressing opinions or encouraging in activities that are critical of the government or existing power structures. So, basically, it's giving the government a free check to do whatever they want to do, and you cannot disagree with it, or you're a dissenter, which will be a federal crime. Clearly put, the practice of threatening dissent is a threat to the state, national security, or social order, and then criminalizing it has been firmly entrenched in liberal democratic states since the 18th century. Capital punishment for domestic terrorism. While there isn't a federal law specifically defining domestic terrorism as a crime, some states and Washington, D.C. have their own laws. Let that sink in. The federal government can prosecute terrorism-related crimes under existing laws, potentially leading to the death penalty in cases involving the death and or use of weapons of mass destruction. But domestic terrorism can be given the death penalty because DC has their own laws. Trump floats labeling violence against Tesla dealerships as domestic terrorism. FBI warns violence against Tesla, domestic terrorism. FBI and ATF create Tesla task force to hunt down domestic terrorists. Are Tesla protests domestic terrorism? Now, remember this article at the beginning? The man with the autism awareness tattoo got deported and sent to El Salvador's prison and sent to a terrorism confinement center. Paul Washer said you would not be detained under noble causes, that they would mislabel you. So now being a Tesla, which I do not condone tearing up property, please don't read into that. But now if you're a Tesla protester, you are domestic terrorist. But during the George Floyd thing, people were burning down whole cities, burning down police stations. But now we've turned the corner in the political climate, and they will be going after dissenters. And if you do things that they do not like, you can get labeled a domestic terrorist, and you too could find yourself sitting in a terrorism confinement center. Paul in the Bible said he was sitting in prison because of the gospel, for which I am now in chains. Paul Washer said you will suffer for loving Jesus, but it won't be seen and shown to the world that it was for a noble cause that you got picked up, that you will be falsely accused of all kind of crazy stuff and be sent to a domestic terrorism confinement center without trial or jury, that Rachel Maddow reported. The same man that said I'm the father of the vaccine, the same man that says I'm the crypto president, Attorney General Pam Bondi, the death penalty is back.
Pam is doing such a fantastic job. I thought maybe you could say a few words.
Thank you, President. As far as we are hearing a lot about fraud, waste, and abuse, a lot of waste and abuse, but there is a tremendous amount of fraud. And Elon, thank you for your partnership. Thank you for your team.
I hate that our whole government is kissing up to Elon, the man holding the purse. And they're all going hardcore against American people, and they're putting their nose all up the rear exit door of Elon Musk. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of it. A man that says he's not afraid to go to hell, a man who wears the Baphomet uniform with an upside down cross, and our government are praising him every time they can open their mouth. And she is a devil woman.
Waste and abuse, but there is a tremendous amount of fraud. And Elon, thank you for your partnership. Thank you for your team. You have uncovered so much fraud in our government, and we will prosecute you. We have an internal task force now working with every agency sitting here at this table. And if you've committed fraud, we're coming after you. Thank you, Elon, for that. On the violent crime level, thanks to President Trump's directive, we are seeking the death penalty again. So all of these horrible, violent criminals that you're hearing about around the country, they will face the death penalty federally within our country. And the drug dealers need to get out of here because we are coming after you. We're going to have 94 great U.S. attorneys around this country, and everyone will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law.
Now listen to Trump. Now, she said we're coming after domestic terrorists, okay? And Trump is floating the idea of anybody that comes against Elon Musk Tesla cars are domestic terrorists. So are they going to kill people that come against Elon Musk? Now, listen to Trump's response to this.
Thank you.
Thank you, President. It's at your directive.
I couldn't have said that better. That's very good. That's very good. It's doing a fantastic job. Thanks, Pam.
Now, could they kill people for psychological disorders? Could they legally detain you if they say you've got a mental disorder for how you're coming against the government, the way that you think you've got, for one diagnosed mental illness? We are going into perilous times that the Bible told us about. Let's keep going on this. The reason why I say that is because look at this. From July 25th, 2024, Trump suggests some disabilities should just die, says Trump's nephew. In a new book, Donald Trump's nephew, Fred C. Trump III, says that the former president told him so. This is his brother, Fred, that Donald Trump loved. This is Fred's son. Fred III says that the former president, his uncle, told him that people like his own son who have intellectual and developmental disabilities should just die. The claim comes in Fred Trump's memoir, All in the Family, The Trumps and How We Got to Be This Way, that is set to be released next week. An excerpt was published by Time on Wednesday. Fred Trump, the son of Donald Trump's late brother Fred Trump Jr., said that he saw his uncle being in the White House as an opportunity to advocate for housing support and other needs of people with intellectual disabilities like his son William, age 25. In the book, Fred Trump describes bringing a group of advocates to the White House in May 2020 to meet with top officials, including then U.S. Secretary of Health and Human Services Alex Azar and then President Donald Trump. Donald seemed engaged, especially when several people in our group spoke about the heart-wrenching and expensive efforts they'd made to care for their profoundly disabled family members. Y'all, and this will be a financial burden to Doge, and they all love Elon. Let's keep going. He seemed engaged when several people in our group spoke about the heart-wrenching and expensive efforts they'd made to care for their profoundly disabled family members who were constantly in and out of the hospital and living with expensive arrays of challenges. And y'all, that's why I live in an RV, that I have no family member. I have a mentally challenged son that I have to take care of that needs 24/7 care. I don't monetize, so that's why I say if you send me anything, thank you, because this is a hard struggle. And these are people with money telling the president how hard it is. Okay? And what did Trump say? After the 45-minute Oval Office meeting concluded, Fred Trump said his uncle asked to see him. I thought he had been touched by what the doctor and advocates in the meeting had just shared about their journey with their patients and their own family members. But I was wrong, Fred Trump wrote. Those people, Fred Trump said his uncle told him, the shape they're in, all the expenses, maybe those kind of people should just die. Not knowing what to say, Fred Trump said he turned and walked away. On another occasion, Fred Trump said he reached out to his uncle to ask for help with the medical fund that the family had set up for his son that was running low. After explaining the situation, Fred Trump recounts that the former president told him, "I don't know," and then let out a sigh and said, "He doesn't recognize you. Maybe you should just let him die and move down to Florida." Fred Jr. says, "My son William deserves a life just like anyone else. And to that end, I knew I had to advocate for him in every way possible." Fred Trump wrote, "I might never change Donald Trump's mind or change the mind of anyone who lacks love and compassion for those whose voices can't be heard or those lives who were fully dependent on others. But I knew what I could do. I could offer my voice, my experience, my strength to push forward for those who needed it." The former president also faced criticism in 2015 for appearing to mock a reporter with a disability during one of his campaign rallies, an allegation he denied. The Trump campaign did not respond to requests for comment from Disability Scoop about Fred Trump's claim. Time also said that it asked the former president to respond and received no reply. Now, we're wrapping it up. You remember at the beginning of this video, I showed Big Brother street lights that watch and listen, right? And we talked about the technology that's going to be put in place to find dissenters, to locate dissenters, to put them in indefinite detention without a trial or jury, potentially locate disabled people. Watch what it would look like. So we showed the Atlas of Surveillance and how surveilled the cities are. But we're just seeing it on paper. We're just seeing a depiction of it. We know that there's surveillance out there. We know, the back of our mind, we know. But do you want to see what it looks like in the streets of a back town in Louisiana? So St. Martinville, Louisiana, let's see, in 2023 had 5,255 people. Okay? 5,000 people. Let's go see what real life surveillance in this town looks like. You're going to be floored. Now, on the surface, people would just read this and be glad that there were cameras in place. St. Martinville Police Department is asking for assistance in locating these females' vehicle that was involved in this video. Top left corner. March 26, 2025, 4 days ago. Y'all, this is in an impoverished part of St. Martinville, okay? This is what smart technology on a light pole looks like. Now, it's going to pick up their whole entire conversation. Imagine walking down the road talking about the government. Oh, I don't like Donald Trump. Did y'all see what he's doing? Oh, I don't like Elon Musk. Do you know he wants to put a brain chip in you? Oh, did you know my son is disabled? Or you're walking down the road with your disabled son. And there's facial recognition on these telephone poles. Watch what this looks like in real life. Audio and video. And listen how clear the audio is. I want to just point this out before we go. Now, if you're on a back road in an impoverished area, you're in your car. You don't anticipate as soon as you open your car door that a super sensitive mic is picking up everything you're talking about. And this is getting their cuss words and everything. Now, granted, it's going to show them commit a crime, but think about all the people that walk up and down that street that are not committing a crime, that say, I don't like Donald Trump. I'm scared of Elon Musk. I'm not going to get no mark of the beast. I'm not going to worship no beast. I'm not getting an implant. All your intimate conversations are being recorded, even on a back road in Louisiana that looks like there's no jobs, no money, no nothing. The surveillance network is encroaching on everybody. Picking up everything.
Hey, you better put this bitch in. You're the one.
You think they knew?
Hey! Oh!
So that's what surveillance in real life looks like, down to the back streets in Louisiana. And they're talking about making dissent a crime, calling dissenters domestic terrorists. And people are clapping, yay, Trump is going to clean up domestic terrorists, until the definition of a domestic terrorist is redefined and you're held in indefinite detention at an undisclosed location with no trial by jury, with no rule of law, with no constitutional rights, without any due process, held indefinitely, and your family not even know where you're at by an accusation that's even down to the back streets of Louisiana, that will be able to hear your conversations and know if you are a political dissenter. The Bible says, know this, that in the last days, perilous times, dangerous times shall come. We need to set a doorkeeper, guard at our mouth when we're walking up and down the streets, when we're going into Walmart, and we know facial recognition is being used in Walmart. Listening and audio is being implemented in Walmart. I just had to show y'all this. I just threw that in for free, so I'm going to show you the article. CBS 2018. Walmart patents audio surveillance technology to record customers and employees. Walmart wants to listen to its workers and its shoppers and more, a lot more. America's largest retailer has patented surveillance technology that could essentially spy on cashiers and customers, collecting audio data in the stores. You walking through Walmart on your phone, they're hearing the conversation. You turn around and you're telling little Johnny, you pull another thing off that shelf and I'm going to spank your little bottom when we get home. You understand me? They're hearing everything everywhere. And we need to be aware of that. You could be in Walmart talking against the administration and they're going to hear it. And we know Walmart is teamed up with the Department of Homeland Security. In 2010, Walmart partnered with the U.S. Department of Homeland Security to promote If You See Something, Say Something campaign, encouraging shoppers to report suspicious activity to law enforcement. And now Walmart is listening to its shoppers. Homeland Security taps new partners in terror fight. Walmart public service announcement.
Hi, I'm Janet Napolitano, Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security. Homeland Security begins with hometown security. That's why I'm pleased that Walmart is helping to make our communities more safe and secure. If you see something suspicious in the parking lot or in the store, say something immediately. Report suspicious activity to your local police or sheriff. If you need help, ask a Walmart manager for assistance. Thank you for doing your part to help keep our hometowns safe.
And I'll throw this in for free. Sam Walton, who started Walmart, served in the U.S. Army Intelligence Corps, supervising prisoner of war camps. And now Walmart's teamed up with Department of Homeland Security, and Walmart has audio listening in the stores. And Trump just legalized the death penalty again for federal crimes. Domestic terrorism is a federal crime. Do y'all see how dangerous this is about to get? The Bible says a fool utters all his mind. Be cautious when you're out in public that everything you say, every thought you say that utters out of your mouth is being listened to. We are in perilous times. Prepare your mind that you could be sitting in a detention facility for being an enemy of the state, for standing up for Jesus. Are you prepared to be like Paul, talking about I'm in chains for preaching the gospel? Are you ready? Pray for mercy in Jesus' name. But be psychologically prepared for the fight that is all around us. I love y'all. Thank you for watching. We are being surveilled. Talks of eliminating our courts. NDAA, indefinite detention, without charge or trial. Continual surveillance in the least expected places. The federal death capital punishment is back. They said they will punish domestic terrorists. People that are protesting against Teslas are being labeled domestic terrorists. Dissenters are domestic terrorists. And the death sentence is back. Y'all think about this. I love y'all. Thank you for watching. If you appreciate the content that I bring on this channel, if I'm feeding you spiritually, would you prayerfully consider a small donation to feed us physically? I love y'all. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.